to come to this class. Happy Sunday, happy 2021. And drop in the comments if you have really specific questions that you're trying to maybe get answered or where you're coming from. And we're going to cover a wide variety of topics today. So Mary Beth, I'll let you kick it off, or whoever's starting.
Oh, I can start. And then I'm not seeing it live on my end, so I don't know what that means. So I just wanted to double check before moving forward. Can you see it on your end, Mary Beth?
No, I can't, Carrie. It might be private. Just make sure it's on public.
Okay, but as we figure that out, I want to welcome everybody for taking the time to learn about this information. Is it good, Carrie?
Yep.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see it. Got it, thanks. Yeah, welcome you all for taking the time to learn about this subject. I'm looking forward to sharing along with the 3 other regenerative detox specialists here. We've come together and wanted to really share this life-changing information that has really benefited our lives and transformed our lives in a healthy way. And we wanted to get this information out to more people. So we thought, how can we do that? So we came together to collaborate and bring monthly classes on different subjects. And so today's subject is maintaining healthy lifestyle habits. And my name is Karri Tidwell. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I'm looking forward to sharing more on my story and how I'm feeling better in my late 30s than I did in my 20s. And then how I'm maintaining that over the last a little over 5 years. I've learned some information that has completely transformed my health and have been able to maintain healthy lifestyle habits in between. And so I know there's a lot of confusing information out there with different dietary theories and different diets and lifestyles and cleanses, and it can be really confusing. Maybe doing that, you might get some results, but maintaining healthy habits, sometimes people can have challenges with. And I know Carrie, can you mute yourself? I know I was having a challenging time with this throughout my health journey, just trying to figure out what was happening in my body and wanting to be the healthiest version, and I wasn't feeling comfortable. And so a little over 5 years ago, I had symptoms that were coming up that were pretty scary. I was getting lightheaded every time I stood up. I had chronic back pain. Every time I got up in the morning, I couldn't stand up straight. The shoulder wouldn't go down. I blamed it on my bed. I spent thousands of dollars trying to get a new bed. And just like really not understanding what was happening. I had digestive stuff. I was having menstrual cycle things come up. I was getting adult allergies. I didn't feel good in my body. And so I went to the doctor. I got misdiagnosed with one said I had vertigo, another one didn't really know what was happening. And so I thought, even if I do have something with Western medicine, I didn't want to take a pill or do something like that. I knew I had to heal my body internally. And I knew once I give the body the right condition, I know things can heal. I just didn't know what that was. And I put that intention out there. I have to figure this out. I have to find a way to heal my own body. And the saying, they say, when the student's ready, the teacher shows up. And I believe this happened when I learned about Dr. Robert Morrison, regenerative detoxification. And that really helped me understand my body in a whole new way. And once I started applying his teachings and doing this in my own body, it has completely transformed my life. And I'll share more on that. So it took about 3 months as I started to open up my eliminative channels. And it wasn't just about eating healthy and having these healthy habits. I actually had to remove obstructions that were in my body, in my GI tract, in my lymphatic system. And we'll be sharing more in detail, but in a nutshell, our body can be congested, not only in the GI tract with constipation, but in our lymphatic system, which is our body's main sewer system. And then this is where symptoms can prevent. So I was having chronic inflammation. I was having allergy stuff happening, dark circles under my eyes. My skin was more dry and cracked. So I was really like dehydrated from the inside out and having all these symptoms being presented. And so a lot of times I like to tell people what we think is normal is just common. It's not normal to have all those symptoms. That's your body's warning signs telling you that something's out of balance. And so I had many things out of balance, and I knew I wanted to have another baby at that time in my life. And I knew I couldn't bring the baby in not feeling well in my own body. And so if you're listening and you have signs or symptoms or things presenting in your body, it could be a signal to do a cleanse. And so maintaining healthy lifestyle habits, I like to start with cleanses, because it's not just about eating healthy, because I thought I was eating healthy and I still was having these symptoms being presented because I didn't understand I needed to open up the eliminative channels, remove the obstructions, hydrate, cleanse, alkalize, detoxify, and then maintain healthy lifestyle habits. So for me now, maintaining health, it's not just about eating a certain way, but it's about doing cleanses. And I like to say through season changes. So at least 2 times a year, some people do 4 with the season change. And so doing these cleanses has really helped me just take a pause, give the digestive tract a break, and really learn about the body. And so once I did this for a few months, I really thoroughly cleansed my internal terrain and got my kidneys opened up and understood the lymphatic system and understood my body's warning signs. And once I got to the root of that, I was able to maintain health in a different way and have been able to maintain it instead of being like, what should I do now? Or I need to do another cleanse, because I kept going back to my old ways. And I used to be addicted to Kit Kat bars. I used to eat Kit Kat bars every day. And now that I've like cleansed things out, and when I introduce foods back in, I can really feel what feels good in my body. And whereas before I was just like, had that sugar addiction. And sometimes when we take that pause, we can really tune in and feel how certain foods and different lifestyle things make us feel. And a lot of times what I found is like, it's the memory of that food or that habit that we like. It's not really actually doing it. And so when we take that pause to clean our system, we can really feel how our body responds and reacts to foods. And so in maintaining, I try to eat as healthy as possible in between cleanses, and just going deeper each time, and eating healthier in between each one, and really listening to what my body signals are. And I haven't, over the last 5 years, I haven't had a cold or flu. I don't get sick. I can't remember the last time I've gotten sick, because I've been able to maintain this and really listening to my body and changing up my diet and lifestyle completely. And so I wanted to share some things that have been really helpful as far as like habits that I've acquired after learning this. And so I think it's really important to have routines. So having a morning and an evening routine. So morning routine can set your tone for the day. And then your evening routine can just, get you prepared for resting and healing and regenerating through the night, and then preparing for a good night's sleep. And so a morning routine, an example of that on a perfect day would look like I would get up. I was going to share about tongue scraping, and I don't know if any of you have heard of tongue scraping, but as we cleanse, our body is trying to get rid of waste. And so I've adapted this lifestyle habit since I learned about cleansing, is our tongue can be coated white. So our tongue is the extension of our GI tract. And some people just like brush their tongue, and I used to think that was enough, but I actually now use a tongue scraper in the morning. So when I get up, I go to the bathroom and use a tongue scraper. So this is what it looks like, a little metal thing like that. And I just make that part of my habit. And so as I've adopted these habits, it's now like second nature. It's not effort, because I've slowly transformed. And so as I'm saying all these other habits that I do, don't get overwhelmed, and just, try to do little things every day in adding in your own health journey. And so I'll do that. I love to do abdominal massage to really connect in with my body, and do deep breathing with that. So really oxygenating the body. And then when using breath work with it, so that's a beautiful way to start my day. And that's usually takes like 5 minutes. And then when it's nice outside, I like to go for a walk outside, or I'll bundle up if the sun's out, or do yoga, do some type of movement to just get energy flowing. Because it's when we're sleeping, our body is healing and repairing. But then when we break our fast from the night before, I like to start my day with lemon water or something hydrating. Now that it's winter, if you're in colder climates, warm ginger tea can be really helpful and warming to the body, and you can put some lemon and raw honey in it. or a little cayenne for a more warming effect, but something hydrating to start my day. So when we break our fast, we want to keep things flowing. And so whether it's that or a fresh fruit juice or a bowl of grapes, or in the summer, I love watermelon, something hydrating in the morning. And I always start my day with a fruit meal to really hydrate and give my body the healthiest nutrition I feel like right away. I've adopted this in as a healthy lifestyle habit. And then adding in more high vibrational foods. I notice I feel best when the more high vibrational, high water content foods I eat. So just adding that more of that throughout the day kind of crowds out the other things. And then really listening to your body, really tuning in. And a lot of times we could be on autopilot and just do things out of habit. And so really tuning in, and am I hungry right now? Or am I eating out of habit or boredom? To really listen to what your body is wanting. And then being mindful of our thoughts. A lot of times we can have certain patterns and things repeating that keeps us stuck in a certain habit. And so to break those habits, we just have to like disrupt that thought pattern. And so as you add in healthier lifestyle habits, this can help disrupt it, or just really tuning in and listening to your body. And becoming aware of those unconscious patterns. And then education, I think, is really important when wanting to create healthy lifestyle habits, is really educating yourself, because we're not taught regenerative healing in school. We're not really taught to listen into our body and see what foods are making us feel well and not. I grew up with chronic ear infections, and I wish I would have known that dairy was a huge culprit for that. And I was also told to drink a ton of milk because it's going to help with my bones, but it was really further congesting me and causing me more pain. And so really educating yourself and listening to your body, because everyone's a little different. And that's why this can be really helpful to start with a cleanse. And then as you add certain foods back in, you can see how your body responds in a way, if you have more energy, do you feel tired? And I remember after a few months of really thoroughly cleaning out my body, I actually woke up with energy. I remember wanting to hit my snooze because it was such a habit, and I didn't for that. I was talking to myself like, I don't feel tired, but I feel like I should hit snooze because that was just a habit that I was doing. And so I literally felt like this surge of energy in my body, like I had to get up, I had to move, and I'd never felt that. I had major adrenal fatigue before. And so just taking the time to pause and cleanse is really, really helpful for creating healthy lifestyle habits in the future, because then you'll know your body on a deeper level and know what makes you thrive and what doesn't. And I didn't even realize how bad I felt until I felt better. And so that's why I really recommend cleansing. And if you're needing support in that, we'll be sharing. We offer group transformations that are really helpful and supportive and educating. And some of my clients come in for maybe weight loss, and then they come out being like, I want to, heal my kidneys and my adrenal glands. And you learn more about your health. So you might come in for one thing, and then you leave with a lot of education and knowledge about the body. And so we really love to support people through these transformations, which we'll be sharing more on. But in all, it's helpful to do cleanses and maintain eating healthy habits in between your cleanses. And so that's what I wanted to share. I'm just really grateful that you're all here and taking this time to learn about your body and your health, because I believe when we take care of our health in the best way that we can, it has a huge impact on ourselves and our family and those around us. And I truly believe the world. And so, and with everything happening last year, I just keep coming back to taking care of myself so I don't get thrown off too much. And so moving forward in 2021, it's a great time to take a pause and really listen to what your body is asking for. And so you can show up and share your gifts and shine your light moving forward. And so thank you all for being here. I'm going to pass it on to Mary Beth to share more details about the systems of the body and how we can support it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carrie. And thank you I love the personal story and just the emphasis on the cleansing aspect. And I'm going to bring in, I see in the comments, people are asking about what is vibrational foods. So I will be talking about that, high vibrational foods. But for me, really what staying healthy and maintaining vitality is all about is having a really balanced outlook on cleansing, rebuilding, and retaining. And so what I really mean by that is ensuring that the body is moving through its 4 basic processes of digestion, absorption, utilization, and elimination. And so I'm going to break down these 4 processes pretty briefly, and then kind of go into talking about why eating alkaline, like fresh, raw, living whole foods, fruits, and veggies are so vital for the body to be able to perform these processes. So number 1, we have digestion, and digestion is the first process that must take place in a healthy body, for a body to really be healthy. And this process is where the body breaks down our food adequately into building materials and fuel. So the raw materials of our food are required for the body to have energy and to function and to build and to repair and to cleanse. And so the breakdown of food is actually done through enzyme action, which starts in the mouth. It starts through your saliva. When you first put a piece of food in your mouth, it already starts breaking it down. And then it moves down into the stomach where hydrochloric acid is released, and then it moves into the small bowel. And when our food doesn't properly break down in this process, that's when we can experience a lot of like gas and fermentation and putrefaction. And our teacher, Dr. Robert Morse, likes to say, the greater the gas, the greater the weakness. And so if you're having a lot of gas, that's one sign that your body is struggling during this digestive process. And so when food is being broken down, it breaks food down into kind of the following components: proteins into amino acids, carbohydrates into simple sugars, and fats into fatty acids and glycerol, which are used in that building and repair phase. And so proper digestion is so imperative for overall health, and ways to really support healthy digestion is to eat on the alkaline side of the food chart. And if you've come to our classes before, you know we talk about this a lot. And really, when I say alkaline foods, I just mean real fresh fruits and veggies. Most of the processes in the digestive process are of alkaline nature, except for the acid pepsin, which is a digestive enzyme which is released in the lower stomach during the initial process of protein digestion. But before and after that, the enzymes are actually of alkaline nature. So the more alkaline we're eating, the more we're aiding this process along. And then we come to absorption, which is the second process. After food is broken down, we must then be able to absorb the raw materials and use it as fuel for the body. So these components, these nutritional components, are carried by the bloodstream and then initially into the cell for energy and stored energy that we use later. When we absorb, the way we absorb nutrients is through our gut villi, which I like to think of them as like tendrils of a jellyfish. And they're basically on our gut lining, and they're absorbing our nutrients through small pores that are all along the mucous membrane of the small and the large intestine. But unfortunately, when we eat a diet that's very acidic, or the SAD diet, which is very high like in pasteurized dairy, refined sugars, refined grains, conventional meats, heavily cooked foods, what happens is our intestines actually become impacted with a thick rubber-like substance that's called mucoid plaque. And basically this mucoid plaque is just made up of foreign proteins that the body isn't able to break down. And what it does is it ends up blocking the nutritional components of our food from being absorbed by the gut villi. And so we just end up with a lot of malabsorption, or these broken down nutrients that aren't being utilized by the body. So if one is not absorbing properly, this is where you can kind of run into those issues of fatigue or muscular atrophy, or just feeling really tired and lethargic all the time, not having enough energy. So that's the step number 2, is absorption. Step number 3 the body needs to go through is utilization. And so once the nutrients are, let's say they're absorbed by our gut villi, now those nutrients need to get into the cell. And so once the nutrients are broken down, from the digestive system, they go and they pass through the liver, which the liver I like to think of as like the inspection plant. It basically further inspects these components of our food and breaks it down even further with different chemical changes. And if you want to like study something magic, study the liver, because the amount of processes it carries out in our body is phenomenal. And this is really the process when the acid and alkaline balance becomes really imperative, because when the body is more on the acidic side, this nutrition that's being broken down actually becomes anionic or coagulating, meaning that it starts to stick together and clump together. And another thing that acidity does is that it's heat producing. So this also causes inflammation along with the coagulating. And then we get things like cholesterol buildup, minerals from our foods can even start bonding together. And this is where we see things like kidney stones and spurs start to pop up. So when the red blood cells start clumping together, this actually blocks proper oxygen from transporting to our cells. And the utilization of these nutrients into the cells basically creates cellular starvation, because the nutrients aren't able to get into that cell because of the coagulation and the lack of oxygen. So what this leads to is a loss of systemic energy and even muscle tissue. And then you can even get into things like hypo and hyperactivity of the glands and the organs. And many of our glands actually supply hormones and steroids that assist in this utilization process. And if we're in the hypo or hyper phase, the body's ability to utilize these minerals and vitamins that have been broken down becomes affected, and we can get into a state of high depletion. Even if we're eating a lot of good foods, if we're not absorbing and we're not utilizing properly, we can still be in kind of that depletion or that malabsorption phase. So then we move into the last phase, which is elimination. And most of us know what that is. It's, healthy bowel movements, healthy urination. Basically, I like to think about whatever goes in must come out in some form. And so once we're in that third stage of utilization, the food hopefully has been broken down into its simplest form. And in that process, there are a lot of cellular byproducts and cellular waste that actually needs to leave the body and leave the cells. And if we're not eliminating, like Carrie was talking about, we start to build up congestion around the cells and inside the cells, which leads to further cellular starvation. So really good elimination really looks like 3 bowel movements a day, because if you think about if you're eating 3 times a day, you should also be eliminating 3 times a day. Another way to eliminate waste is through sweating, through deep breathing, through adequate urination. And another kind of tip you can see is when you're eliminating, if your food is coming out the way that it looked like when you put it in, like let's say a piece of corn or rice that you see in your bowels, you know that the digestion process and the absorption process is compromised. So one thing I can say about if your system is feeling upset or you're feeling out of balance, the odds is that you're probably not having proper elimination or not doing enough of it. So those are the basic 4 processes of the body, and I could go way more in depth with them, but basically, whenever we consume anything, we must go through these 4 processes. And if your body is not doing digestion, absorption, utilization, and elimination, you'll find that it's really hard to actually maintain the day-to-day healthy lifestyle because your body is out of whack. So you might be asking yourself, like, well, what can I do? What are some of the best ways to support the body along in these 4 processes? And for me, when it comes from a nutritional standpoint, again, it's really eating whole foods and foods that are in their natural state, in their raw, fresh state, even dehydrated state, because these foods contain a synergistic form. And when we eat foods that are in their whole form or their synergistic form, they have the most energy. And so the number one question you can ask yourself when you're eating foods is, am I eating foods that are full of energy? Am I eating foods that are really going to fuel my cells and fuel these 4 processes? So the higher the energy the food, the greater the healing, the greater the balance, the greater our body has the ability to maintain health and well-being. And so that being said, fructose and glucose from fruits and vegetables are some of the most important factors in creating cellular regeneration and healthy maintenance of the cells. So each type of food has its own unique individual energy, just like we do. And fruits in particular have the highest electrical energy of all foods. And that's particularly why they're so good for the brain and the nerves, because our brain and our nervous system are the highest energy centers in our body. And so we actually know how to measure the vibrancy or the energy of different foods through electromagnetic meters. And what they do is they actually measure the units of energy, which are called angstrom energies. And so there's a chart I wanted to show you, but I'll kind of just read from it. On the chart, fresh raw fruits have the highest angstrom of energy units. They're around from like 8,000 to 10,000 angstrom units of energy. And then, like our fresh vegetables, they're around 8 to 9,000 angstroms of energy. When you're going into fresh raw milks or breast milk, mother's milk, it's around 85 angstroms of energy. And then as you go more into the cooked foods, even cooked vegetables, you see kind of a decrease in the angstrom units of energies to where it's like 4,000 to 6,500. And the average human body needs 65,000 angstrom of units of energy at all times. And you'll see like in foods like highly pasteurized milk, it only vibrates at 2,000 angstrom of energies. So you can see that that's below what we actually need to maintain. Pasteurized cheeses measure out at about 1,800 angstrom units of energy. Refined white flours are down to even 1,500 angstrom units of energy. And cooked meats, actually, when they do the electromagnetic meter test, come out with 0. So if you're eating really heavily on the acidic side, you can see how hard your body has to work to try to maintain energy if it's not being at that maintained homeostasis of 6,500. And, when you start to get into even like people that are dealing with cancer, these kinds of things, when you measure their personal angstrom unit of energy, that's around 4,800. So just to even smile, it takes the body about 6,000 to 7,000 angstrom units of systemic energy at all times in your body to just even begin to smile, no less stay healthy and happy. So you can see that basically the lower energy the food you eat, the lower the systemic energy becomes and the harder it becomes to maintain healthy balance and lifestyle. So if you're thinking about like how can I really support my body and digestion and absorption and utilization and elimination, it's eating higher energy foods. And the more energetic foods you eat, the more vibrant, the more healthy and balanced you feel. So, I mean, if you don't believe me, you can try it. I just try for one day and just experiment with yourself eating more fresh, raw fruits and veggies. Maybe even do 3 days, maybe even do a week. And then when you go back to eating more cooked foods or acidic foods, you'll notice a huge difference in your energy and more lethargy. One of the things I love about eating high vibrational foods is after eating a meal, I usually feel really energized versus if I go and eat a highly cooked or highly acidic meal, afterwards I feel like I need to take a nap. And that's basically because our body's trying to take from its energy stores to get our body back up to that 6,500 units of angstrom energy. So kind of like to sum it up is how I personally strive to maintain health and balance and support my body in these 4 main processes is just eat foods that are high in angstrom units of energy, really alkalizing, very hydrating for the body so that your body doesn't get as super congested, and so that it's moving and flowing through these processes, and so that your cells are actually getting the nutrition that they need. The body is really a tremendous machine. It truly is, and it can withstand a lot. It can operate at a low angstrom unit of energy for a certain period of time, but it's just at some point it's going to say, okay, that's enough. And then that's where we run into these different diseases and different things. So know that your body is a fully aware system, know that it can self-clean, know that it can self-regenerate, self-heal. We just have to support the systems of the body and support this mechanism to function properly by giving it the proper fuel that it really thrives on, and by helping it to maintain that level of angstrom energy. So I'll leave you with a quote from our teacher, Dr. Robert Morris. He says, if you wish to experience pure energy, you must consume pure energy. And that's definitely not just from a nutritional standpoint. That's not only the food we eat, but the thoughts we think, the things we're consumed with on a daily basis. So that's what I have for you guys. And I think Rita is going to dive into even a little bit more on some of the systems of the body and how we can really support them to maintain healthy balance and lifestyle. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary and Carrie. All of that information and application is really transformative and helped me to completely regenerate and repair my body when I was told it was impossible. So really helpful information. Thank you. And today I want to talk about the endocrine system. And it's important to know that our organs and our glands and our tissues all function as a whole. So it's important that we really address the body as a whole, especially in reference to hormonal health or health in general. And it's important to note that we don't start to see any symptoms appear in the body until there's been long-standing tissue weakness and congestion, which can actually be passed down from multiple generations. 75% of disease symptoms that we see are a direct result of endocrine weakness. So I want to speak to our endocrine system a little bit. The endocrine system communicates to all of our cells. They release hormones, including steroids and neurotransmitters and enzymes, all of which support not only the physical function of our body, but the emotional well-being of our body. So our endocrine system includes our adrenal glands, our pancreas, our thymus, our thyroid and our parathyroid glands, the testes, the ovaries, the pineal gland, and the pituitary glands. And so I just want to give a short overview and explanation of each of your glands for educational purposes. Your pineal gland produces melatonin, which helps us to relax and helps us to sleep at night. Your thyroid and parathyroid glands support calcium absorption and utilization. And a low thyroid function can result in hair loss, cold hands and feet, bone density loss, scoliosis, hot flashes, and excess weight that's hard to eliminate. The thymus gland is right here, and that's the master gland of our immune health and our immune function. Your adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys, and they produce neurotransmitters, and these impact your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. And they also produce progesterone, which is an alkaline hormone. Indications of adrenal gland weakness can be arthritis. Arthritis comes from adrenal weakness and lymphatic congestion. And then other indications of adrenal weakness are low blood pressure, as well as high blood pressure, any systemic inflammation that we're dealing with, anytime there's estrogen dominance, and long-term estrogen dominance leads to ovarian cysts, sore breasts, uterine fibroids, etc. over a long period of time. And then anytime we're seeing neurotransmitter weakness or issues such as MS or Parkinson's or palsy or tremors, that's an indication that those adrenals are really compromised. And then anytime there's been a spinal cord injury or post-stroke or any type of cancer or anxiety disorder, that also is indication of that the adrenal glands have been weakened over time. So your pancreas, moving on, really produces hormones such as insulin. And when the pancreas and the adrenals are down, that's when we start to see symptoms of diabetes. The ovaries secrete estrogen and progesterone. And when the adrenals are down, women can become estrogen dominant, which is when we start to see cysts and fibroids and cancers and such. So it's, again, looking at the body as a whole system and how these endocrine glands work together to support and complement each other. And it's same with the testes, which produce testosterone, and testosterone impacts our muscle growth and our, cellular function. And that progesterone produced in the adrenal glands must counterbalance that testosterone in order to create balance in the body. So I want to speak to how to support these important glands. The main thing is to know a lot of what Mary and Carrie was talking about is these glands get weakened or become under functioning once they have exposure to excess toxicity, either from food or beauty products or environmental exposures. And they also become hypo or hyper functioning due to lymphatic congestion, which is where all of those toxicities get stored. So the primary cause of endocrine disruption is from an overly acidic diet, which is what most of us are exposed to on a daily basis. The number one way to really support our endocrine system as a whole is to incorporate that primarily alkaline diet, as Mary and Carrie were speaking to, because the cells in the glands will strengthen and self-repair when introduced to alkaline forming foods, because these alkaline foods allow for cellular uptake of nutrition as well as oxygen, which allows the cells to get energy to self-repair. So my top tips are to have a minimum of 10 servings of fresh fruits and veggies a day in order to keep that endocrine system healthy. Those fruits are going to hydrate and energize the cells to produce that cellular integrity. Also to have a green drink daily to really alkalize the tissues and to reduce inflammation in the body. And inflammation is that main root cause of tissue weakness over time. And acid forming foods are what create inflammation in the body. And the second tip is to support the endocrine system with specific herbs that support endocrine health and function. And a few of my favorites are dandelion leaf and parsley leaf, kelp, saw palmetto berries, and Siberian ginseng root. And that just really activates and supports and cleanses those tissues. And the next is to have nutrient-rich superfoods daily to combat any deficiencies so that we can actually support our body at that micronutrient level to support cellular integrity. I also incorporate plant-based amino acids, which are really important for endocrine function. And it's important to do that in a way that's really easy to assimilate in order to take the burden off of the kidneys and off of the liver. The next is kidney filtration, which we speak to a lot, but kidney filtration is how the body eliminates those cellular wastes from the body so that those glands can strengthen and repair. My last couple are get into nature daily, get into some form of meditation or relaxation in order to balance those hormones, and to drink living spring water. So really the foundation of supporting our endocrine system, which as I said, is the foundation to so much of our health, is supporting ourselves at the cellular level and working as a collective, as a whole throughout the body. So thank you so much. And I want to pass this off to Carrie, who's going to go a little bit more in depth of ways that we can support ourselves.
There we go. Thanks so much, ladies. Awesome information. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about like, how do we take all of this knowledge and apply it to our life? So, there's a lot of information thrown at you. So the underlying thing that we can just like really couple together is that alkaline foods heal your body. Let me see if I can get my screen here. There we go. Alkaline foods heal your body and clean your body, and acid foods are the parts that break down, destroy, and destruct. So that's the basic takeaway that you can come through with, and some of the healthy lifestyle habits that I like to really focus on in order to maintain permanent change. So oftentimes we set intentions, we set goals, we're like, this is my year, I'm going to feel good in my body. And then we fall off repeatedly. And there's several reasons that happens. So one of the main reasons is the internal environment of your gut biome. So if your gut bacteria is not in a healthy state and you actually have an overgrowth of unhealthy bacteria, you will crave all of the bad foods. You'll be craving the sugar, the salt, the starch, all of that because of the adrenal weakness and all of those things that have created an environment that's healthy for fungus to grow in. So first signs is just kind of doing a little bit of self-exploration. Okay, where are my cravings? What to do a little food journal. Like most people say, like, I eat really healthy. And then I ask them to do a food journal and I see like, well, I had a handful of popcorn and then I had, a couple bites of this candy and then of that. And before you know it, like there's barely any actual fruits and vegetables on there. So really do a little food journal and just get really honest with yourself and like get a good picture of what does your day look like? What is your week looking like? And then you can start to see where your cravings are and where you could have improvement. So that's my first step is like, just like recognition of where you're at and what you start to crave. The second thing, the cravings being the biggest issue is a sign that your gut bacteria is too far on the candida side. So we have healthy gut bacteria and we've done a ton of chats on gut health. So if you want to go back and look on, I think any of our YouTubes, mine's Wise Wellness or Mary Beth or Rita Jean, any of us have it posted. There's like gut health videos where we go deep dive into like gut health and how to get rid of those nasty cravings and why that's happening. That's like a whole hour. But the basics of it is that you've had an overgrowth of bad bacteria, and that bad bacteria is candida. Well, candida is not bad, but you need it only in a certain level. So when it overgrows, you start to crave its food. So when you're on the more acid side, you're going to crave more acid forming foods, and it's going to be really hard when you switch over to the alkaline side. So I just want to give you a realistic transition. When you transition over into more alkaline foods, you want to do it slowly. You want to start with like one thing I like to start with is do fruit till noon. If there's only one thing you change for the rest of your life, fruit till noon. Like if you wake up with those organic hydrating fruits that are cleaning the lymphatic system, cleaning the bowels, hydrating the bowels. So if you have hard stools, you're not eating enough fruit. You're not eating enough hydration. Water isn't the same as fruit. Water can actually strip your body of a lot of minerals. Fruit actually penetrates through the cell and provides electrolytes for the cell and cleans waste out with it. So that's why fruit is so powerful. So really, really focus. I see a question in the comment. No, parasites cannot feed off of fruit sugar. So fructose is much different than a complex. Fructose is a monosaccharide. If you're having a poly or a disaccharide, which means many glucose fructose bonds linked together, those are your starches, your breads, your pastas. That is what parasites feed off of. Fructose is assimilated entirely by the saliva. And by the time it hits your stomach, like watermelon leaves the stomach lining in a couple of minutes. So the only time that people have issues with fruit and candida and fungus is because they're eating it improperly. So they're eating it after a meal. They're eating it after a steak. They're eating it, or they have a big meal and then they're like, oh, fruit sounds really good right now. Fruit should always be eaten first. So proper food combining is an essential part of maintaining a healthy gut and maintaining those healthy habits. So, eating fruits first, waiting full 30 minutes before you move to anything else, preferably an hour, but 30 minutes, generally most fruit is digested and moved out of the small intestine. Vegetables are second. And then when you have vegetables, you want your raw veggies first. If you're having cooked veggies, you want that after your raw, because raw foods have all of our digestive enzymes in them. So our body can easily assimilate with the saliva and then with the hydrochloric acid in our gut. When we're having cooked foods, that takes a much longer process for us. So you notice when you have a cooked meal, it sits in your gut for a lot longer. It's more heavy. And that's because the body doesn't actually have all of the enzymes present because we've cooked a lot of them out. We've changed the chemistry of the food. And now the food's going to be sitting for a lot longer. So this would be a really bad time to have fruit. So you wouldn't have a cooked meal and then have fruit. That can cause fungus because the fruit will ferment on top of the other food. So the fruit isn't the problem, it's the combination of the foods that are the problem. So fructose gives you life force. Like the best way to starve out a fungus is going to be your green juices in your fruits, and doing this properly with herbs as well, like the super cleanser. We use a lot of really potent herbs on our cleanses. So if you're having bad cravings and you're really struggling with like, I set my intention to eat healthy this year, but like the bag of chips wins every time, you need a reboot. You need to overhaul your gut lining. You need to start from scratch and come chat with us. After this call, I'm actually rolling right into another call that's going to be talking about our January Shine On transformation. So if you're in that environment where you're just sluggish, slow, having trouble with your behaviors or your addictive patterns, we have an environment that needs to be cleaned up, and we can help you with that. So I'm going to move on to the rest of my tips that help me stay healthy. People ask me all the time, like, how do you, like, all the time, like, you never not eat vegan? I'm like, no, it's just like a non-negotiable for me. Like, and so I have a couple of things. I really work through a few things. And in the beginning of my journey with Carrie Tidwell, she helped me heal from Hashimoto and lupus, which is how I ended up doing what I do. So this is like the power of one voice, right? The power of Carrie sharing with me helped me share with all of you. And now I have a private practice because of that. But through that whole process, I, in the beginning, was on the heavier acid side, even as a plant-based eater. I had beans in my diet. I had tofu in my diet. Like processed food is even a vegan organic cracker. A cracker doesn't grow on the plant, it doesn't grow from a tree. That's a processed food. So I had some of those things in my diet that I found that I was like quite addicted to. So it was a really hard process for me to unwind that. And I did it by an addition process. So I recommend focusing on addition versus subtraction, and then mindset. So I want to dive into that because mindset is a huge part of my life and how I am able to stay the way that I live, and my business and my kids, and all of it is my mindset and my daily methods of operation. So focus on adding. So instead of having eggs and toast tomorrow morning, have as much fruit as you want. Go cut open a big watermelon, eat it all morning long. Every 30 minutes, if you're hungry for more, have more. Just start adding watermelon in. So then if you have as much fruit as you want, now those eggs and toast, you don't really need them, and they don't really sound that good either. So start the adding process. Then you can say like, okay, well, I'm going to have my normal lunch, but first I'm going to start with an apple and a bowl of peas or something like that. So have your fruit and then have a little salad, and then see if you make it to your other items that you generally want. So I focus on this addition method whenever you're trying to change habits. Because otherwise, if you look at things through the lens of deprivation, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So it's like this, I can't have, I can't have this, I can't have that. And that puts your mindset in a negative. So we've already decided that healthy foods are a negative instead of viewing it as these abundant foods that we get to have. So if you look at when you get off of meat, which is like, there's really 4 options: chicken, pork, beef, fish, right? Repeat over and over. And you feel like, oh, I can't have all these foods. And you're like, wait a minute, look at all of the foods that I can have. There are hundreds of fruits and vegetables. Like, it never gets old. There's so many things that you can do. So change your lens, change your life. That's one of my favorite quotes. And that is so true in everything that I do. It's like, okay, how could I look at this a little bit differently? And I struggle with more of I would say that in general, I can feel weighted down by things easier. So I do a lot of mindset work for myself, and I can tell that that's the way that my mom is, and that's the way that my family is. So it's like some of those ancestral patterns coming through. So just being able to identify your own behaviors. So really getting good at journaling, identifying behaviors of when you're not showing up in your best self. How is your mind process? Do you tend to look at things as like a negative or as a victim instead of as positive? And so how could you turn that thought around? And that's a question I ask myself all the time. Okay, how could I turn this thought around? Is what I'm thinking true? So that's what I want to dive into right now, is my mindset stuff. So I ask myself several questions when I'm really working through a process. And this is Byron Katie's work, Byron. If you want to write that down, Katie. Byron Katie is amazing. She wrote Your Inner Awakening and Loving What Is. And those two books really changed my life and doing the work. So there's actually a workbook online called The Work. And this is like, if you struggle with like negative thought patterns, or if you struggle with like limiting self-beliefs, or just like feeling like I'm unable to do this, this is really great because she goes through these 4 questions. And it's like, basically, is this thought true? So a good example would be like, okay, I'm fat, right? Let's just say that. Because that's a really negative self-talk. And a lot of people have that. So is that thought true? And you're like, well, yeah, it's true. I'm blank, whatever. Then the second part is, how do you know that it's true? And so you can come up with all of these reasons why it might be true. And then, is it absolutely true is the third question. And you're like, well, maybe not, because this person doesn't think that, this person doesn't think that. It's just my opinion. And then the fourth question is, who would I be without that thought? And so go to that space. Like, what would that feel like to not have that thought pattern? So who would I be without that thought? And usually you can feel your body like, oh, that feels so good to not have that in my body. And so your mind state, it's going to set you up for success or for failure. So if you believe that you can't lose weight, or you believe that you can't get healthy, or you believe that you're just not good at cooking new things, or you believe that you're not good at commitment, like that's a belief, and you're going to carry it through with self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's really important to actually identify, are these thoughts true? And then, who would I be without this thought? Go to that place where that feels good. And then my last one is like, okay, so how could I turn this thought around? So my turning that thought around would be like, I am becoming more and more my ideal weight every day. Say, for example, you're focusing on positive body mantra. That's how I turned that thought around. Or I am becoming better at eating high vibrational foods every single day. So that's like one of those mindset things that you can just keep repeating until it becomes integrated in with your cells. Another tactic that I do, and I've taught this on other calls, is 3 questions that I ask myself. So the first question is, what do I want? So you're asking yourself, all right, so I've set an intention for 2021 or whatever it is. I set an intention every year on my birthday, because that's like, okay, this is my year that I want to create this transition. But what do I want? And you really get a good answer. And the second question is, why do I want it? So like, why do you want to feel good in your body? That's like, well, duh, right? Or whatever it is that your intention's at, but why do I want it? And then the third question I ask myself is, what if I had it? And so actually I want everyone to interlace their hands and bring it onto their heart, and just close your eyes for a moment, because we spend so much time in our head and not in our physical body, and not in connection with our spirit and our soul self. So you can all just close your eyes and take a big breath in and send it out. Ask yourself, what do I want? Why do I want it? And now this third question, I don't want you to really answer with logical words. I want you to physically and emotionally go there. What if I had it? Like, start to embody what that feels like. What if I had it? Feel it, see it, breathe it. And take a big inhale together. And happy sigh, exhale. Come back into the space. And how different do you feel right now? You know, just like getting out of your head and getting into your body. So that's one of my mindset techniques, that it's like, okay, this is what I call a departure point. And a departure point is when I know that I'm going down a path that's not in alignment with my goals. My actions are not in alignment with my goals. And I make myself stop and I ask myself those 3 questions. And I do it all the time, almost on a daily basis. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm out of alignment. I'm going to ask myself these questions. So those are my mindset strategies, and we're coming to the end of the hour here, but I wanted to also talk about sleep. Sleep is the number one thing you need to be successful at anything in life. And there's so much research around sleep. When you don't sleep, you cannot make good decisions. You have indecisiveness, you have brain fog, you tend to overeat because your body is trying to compensate the lack of sleep for energy from food. And like not sleeping causes lots of depression and anxiety and low adrenal function and sex drive. And I am repairing my adrenals from years of not sleeping, like years of working overnights as a waitress and working late bar nights when I was building my practice. So how are your patterns? And so Dr. Zach Bush has a really great webinar on sleep, and so does Dr. Furman. And we can send those in the follow-up notes. But sleep is so, so, so important. And the hours between 9 and 11 are actually, and 9 and midnight, but 9 to 11 are the most healing hours for your endocrine system. And that's what Rita talked about, was the endocrine system and all of those glands involved. And that first chunk of sleep, your body is actually processing all of your somatic emotional experiences and kind of like compartmentalizing everything from the day. Like, this goes to this file, this goes to this file. What do I do with this information? So this is like that clearing of the brain. And so if you struggle with sleep, like try to get to bed earlier. I say get to bed at 9 if you can. That's like a dream. You will feel like $1 million. It's not just 8 hours of sleep. If you sleep 12 to 8, you'll be groggy and tired. If you sleep 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, you will feel amazing. So start looking at your sleep schedule and getting to sleep earlier. So those first chunk of hours are really important. And then the second chunk of hours that you're sleeping is actually where your body is physically paralyzed, because so you don't act out your dreams, but your muscles are healing deeply. So you might have some twitches in your sleep. You might have any of the nervous system tremors, which are releasing, but your body is actually healing on a very deep level. And then the third cycle of sleep around 4 a.m. is when the liver is healing, which is the organ that Mary Beth and Rita talked about how powerful it is. So those hours of sleep are incredibly important for your liver health. And your brain. So if you struggle with decision making, if you struggle with, staying on track, you need to examine your sleep schedule and start getting to bed earlier. And if you struggle with sleep, it's the pineal gland. And then there's little things that you can do. So taking a hot bath before bed is extremely helpful. There's a lot of studies behind that. Adding lavender essential oil into your bath and maybe drinking a cup of chamomile tea. And as you do that, then doing a little mind dump before bed. So write down all of the things that maybe are filling your mind so you can get them out of your head, and then have sleep hygiene. Your room should be clean of electronics, no blue lights an hour before bed at least. I like to keep my phone out in the other room charging, no TVs in my room. Like, your room is your sacred space for rest. And so that's where I find, like, if I want to start making better choices, or I'm feeling frustrated or stuck, it's always when I'm unrested and when I'm on a bad sleep pattern. So start focusing on sleep at night and fruit for breakfast, and you'll be off to like a good start. And then we're rolling right into this other call here. So I just want to honor the people that just showed up. We're just wrapping up this call. But very last but not least, I would say, is planning and preparing. Prepare, only shop the outsides of the grocery store, only get the fresh foods, and then make a prep day. Every Sunday, I prep for the week. I do my grocery shop, I do my chop, I make sauces for the week, and I prepare. And then staying ahead of your hunger is really important for overall health. Staying ahead of your hunger so that your cells don't freak out and you don't go for that bag of chips, but have a bag of apples in the car or something as a backup. So thank you so much for all of your time. There's a lot of people jumping on the call right now, and I'll let Mary Beth kind of close this out. But what we have going on right now is that we're going to roll right into talking about our January Shine On 2020 Health Reset. If you want to be a part of a group to really reset your health, reset your life, reset your gut, and then get support from all of us. So Mary Beth, Carrie, Tidwell, Rita, Jean, all of us support on a weekly basis on a live Zoom call on Wednesday nights. And then I always support on Sundays at 11:15. as an extra support. And so our Shine On cleanse is going to be really focused on meditation, mindset, and more diving deeper into these tools. And you'll have access to our complimentary app and everything that comes involved with our cleanses. So I want to honor everyone's time here. We've got a lot of people jumping in the call. Mary Beth or Rita, do you have anything that you want to say to kind of close us out on this portion?
Yeah, I'll just say thank you everyone for taking your time to be here. And if you registered via the link, you will get a follow-up email. And our next class is next February the 21st. And I'll be incorporating a flyer and a link to that in the email as well. And otherwise, you can just reach out to the person who invited you to this call if you do want to get more information, or you can stay on and learn more about the transformation from what Carrie is going to share right now. So thank you everyone for being on. Thank you, Carrie and Rita and Carrie, for sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for being here, and thanks ladies for sharing such powerful, valuable information.
Thank you so much. I always love your shares, Carrie. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in. You're all welcome to stay on. I'm just going to quickly break down what our Shine On transformation is and the research that we've done around what we're supporting for this cleanse. So all
Carrie,
of us
stop the recording and then start another one, or is that possible? Just to